make a little better community for you. But yeah, and like I said, I was ignorant to it as well. The eating disorders, and just thought, oh well, that person just they just want to be skinny, or they just but not really understanding like, oh no, it's not about that. It's about getting that release, that feeling. And when we turn to things, when we are depressed or we're mad or angry, and anger is a secondary emotion, so we're just kind of hiding something with anger anyway, to actually get down into it and start working on the problems. And I had someone say to me earlier, like, oh, I just need better coping skills. And personally, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, anything like that, just dude in recovery, but coping skills to me, healthy coping skills can help you cope, but the issue still needs to be addressed. And,
Totally.
Like if I'm out in the middle of the ocean, I'm going to cope with it, but I really need a boat, so,
That's a really great analogy. Yeah.
How long are you going to be out there till you drown, So I don't know. Coping skills are just, to me, if you can put a Band-Aid on it until you can see your therapist to talk about it, or, somebody that you can engage in conversation about how you're truly feeling and about a situation that really has you worried, sure, throw a Band-Aid on it. But, you really have to do the work. And by the work, I mean getting into the problem and the situation. And sometimes it hides from us. Our brain is tricky. It wants us to feel good. It really does. It wants
Absolutely.
us to be wonderful. It wants everything to be great. And let me go eat some ice cream because that's going to make me feel better. Before I know it, I'm eating ice cream. I'm like, how the hell am I eating ice cream? I wasn't even hungry. And
Right.
the next thing you know, I'm feeling bad about it. I'm like, oh man, and I have thrown up ice cream before just because I was like, why did I eat it? I don't understand. And I don't need to eat that. There's too many calories. I ate the whole damn carton. I'll go throw it up. And I did. And then I thought, wow, that actually tasted good. It was cold coming back up, and I told my friend that, and he's like, dude, that's weird. And then, I mean, yeah, it is weird, really, if you think about it. But if I could have caught myself at the beginning of that episode of getting the ice cream out, like, okay, why am I doing this? And actually deal with those feelings, because like I said, I wasn't hungry. I mean, ice cream is delicious, but I ate the whole carton, like, I don't think that's normal. I don't know what normal is anymore, to tell you the truth, but
Right. So your experience and your interpretation of that situation where you ate the ice cream, there was some sort of emotion. And so, right, one-time occurrence isn't going to create an eating disorder, but that was similar to what an experience that somebody with an eating disorder would have. So you didn't feel good about yourself. You said, whether you were full or not, you just said, like, I shouldn't have eaten that whole carton. So you felt like you had to do something to compensate for it. And so whereas somebody else might be like, I ate a whole carton. I probably shouldn't have done that. But, like, it happens, So it's really, each person's different in the way they interpret situations. And that's why, very easily my traumas and my history easily could have turned into a substance abuse issue. But for whatever reason, my genetics and my chemistry and all the other factors that are at play, and binge eating ended up being my drug of choice. And so, and then some people, as you were saying earlier, they cope by gambling or shopping or so. While those things are thought of as addictions, to kind of circle back to the addiction piece, so I don't think the language quite matches up when it comes to eating disorders. However, the stimulus, right, the event that would trigger someone to go have a drink, to go gamble, to binge eat, to purge, not to eat at all, that kind of stuff, a lot of the times the situation could be the same across the board, and it's just based on how, what mechanism or what symptom expression is coming up for that person.
And so if somebody or someone that's listening right now is worried about their son, their daughter, who might be teenagers, because a lot of times it starts young, and they're thinking, I don't know if they do this, or maybe they do go to the bathroom. They start noticing things. Like, how would you suggest talking to a child or, a teenager that may be exploring this as some kind of outlet for whatever they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have, so on our website, nationaleatingdisorders.org, we have a lot of great information. And while I can sit here and like read some of that stuff or reiterate some of that stuff, I think it's very comprehensive, and there's no one size fits all approach to any of it. And so, but on our website, there's two sections that I want to mention. There's one called, under the help and support tab, there's one that's called Where Do I Start? And that is for an individual who's concerned about themselves, or maybe they know they have an eating disorder, or they're questioning if they do, and they want to take that first step. So that will give some resources into, how to approach a loved one if you're the person that's struggling and things like that. And then on the flip side, we have a section called How Do I Help? So that's for loved ones, family members, caregivers, even educators and coaches and other people that, you might come into contact with in your life that would be somebody who could identify or might see the symptoms in action. And so on the How Do I Help page, there's, again, resources on like how to speak to somebody who's struggling, the ways to talk about the concerns that you're noticing. At the end of the day, compassion and open-mindedness and, avoiding kind of like any form of communication, like the whole like use I statements type thing. So instead of saying you do this and you did that, you're expressing what you noticed, and that, I'm concerned because I noticed that you've been going to the bathroom after every meal lately. What's going on? And so there's a whole list that's been written by eating disorder experts on our website that I think would be really helpful.
Yeah, I think that'd be super helpful. And even if they're, and hopefully, they're not, but if we can help somebody kind of get ahead of the problem before it gets too bad, I think that, makes life a lot easier. And that's one of the things the guys in the video said is he's like, yeah, I want people to know, with eating disorders that there is a better way of life. There's a better way to live. And that hit home to me a lot, because I say that to a lot of people. It's there's a better way. I mean, this life that I'm living now in recovery is just amazing. Amazing things are happening. And I'm free. I'm free from alcohol today. And it's amazing. And to think that people are out there suffering with an eating disorder, and that, no, they can too be free. And just the fact that that guy said that, it's like, oh, so they must feel trapped, and they must feel like, I don't know what to do. There might be a way out. I don't know. And another guy in the video heard that guy say that, and he just kind of thought, well, that's great that he's saying that there's a better way of life, but he's like, I didn't know that was possible. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like this is so hitting home to me right now. And so that's why, I just felt like I had to kind of reach out, and I had to learn more. And, I'm so grateful that you came on and kind of explained some things to me, and, in relation to, addiction. And I really hope that people get to the treatment that they need to get to. I mean, sometimes I think it's hard, and it's not hard to get into treatment for substance use, but there's and I hate to say there's a game, but there is. And when you get insurance companies involved in money, and they don't want to spend money, and then you get people who blame the victim, the victim blamers are like, well, they shouldn't drink so much. Just tell them to quit, and they don't understand it. And that's my hard-earned money. And okay, is it really? Really? Is it?
Right.
There's just so much that goes into it that obviously we can't change today. But, if we can touch one person on this podcast, even, who can tell 10 people, who then tell 4 people, I don't know. It just kind of works that way. But, to not judge people if they have an eating disorder, it's not funny. It's nothing to make fun of. And there's serious health issues that go along with it. And, will they lose their house? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty, like, and with the alcohol, it's pretty simple equation. It's alcohol equals lose everything. And we fall so in love, at least I did, with alcohol. Like alcohol was the love of my life, and I would protect it at all costs and, put a shield around it. And if it was somebody coming at me, well, it's your fault, and I always blame my mom. It's their fault, and
Mm-hmm.
it was never the alcohol's fault. And I would protect it
Right.
without even realizing it,
Mm-hmm.
and again, I don't know if that kind of thing happens, but, you might not lose your house or your job, but you're losing a productive life. You're losing something, because when I heard that guy in that video say that, like there's a better life and, life is
Mm-hmm.
worth it. It's just like, wait a minute, so apparently there's something being lost and there's something to gain from being in recovery from an eating disorder. So.
Absolutely. And yes, I mean, we in the eating disorder field, so eating disorders, ED, a lot of people like to refer to their eating disorder as ED, and they kind of personify it. And so it's like, is it Chelsea that's talking, or is it Ed that's talking, right? Like, is it yourself that's thinking this, or is it your eating disorder that's thinking this? And really trying to separate the two. And, a lot of times Ed, quote unquote, might, maybe there's not the financial ramifications as much as you might have with substance abuse, but for some people you might. But it's like, you don't want to go out to dinner tonight with all these people. You're going to consume X number of calories. And like Ed, your eating disorder, is sabotaging you to stay home, to cancel plans, So all of these things that, that substances, right? So maybe you're too intoxicated with the substance to go out. So it's a little different, but it's still kind of that self-sabotage, I think, that really hits home. And I want to say that I think, first of all, I'm so glad you had me on, and I think you're doing a great job. And at the end of the day, the first step is just to educate yourself, right? There's so many misconceptions and myths about eating disorders, about substance abuse, to your point before, where people are like, just don't drink or just eat or just don't eat, and it's easier said than done. And there's so much more to these illnesses, right? If the advice don't drink worked, we wouldn't have any alcoholics, right? Like,
yeah.
If this was like, thank you for telling me something I didn't know, like, just eat, like, cool. So these are very complex illnesses, and and that's why I've been even a little wishy-washy with some of my responses, because the way that I've interpreted it or what works for me might be different than somebody else's experience. So I want to say that, and just if anybody that's listening is personally struggling or knows somebody who might be struggling with an eating disorder, our helpline, which you can access through the website, as I mentioned before, nationaleatingdisorders.org. You can even do /helpline if you want to get to our helpline directly. And you can reach out through phone, we have click-to-chat messaging. You can even Facebook direct message us, not on Instagram though. And we also have a screening tool that's it's not a diagnostic tool. So really the most important thing with eating disorders is that we always recommend seeking professional help. We don't believe, trying to get over it through willpower and things like that and self-help. It might help to some degree, but these are serious illnesses that need to be treated. And so our screening tool, which is free and confidential, as well as our helpline, can help determine if some of your behaviors are at risk of an eating disorder. So again, it won't diagnose you, but you can also take it as a family member that might be concerned about a loved one. You can take it almost as if you're responding the way they would respond, or you think they would respond, and that might also help shed some light if you're concerned about your loved one's behavior.
And just before you go too, I brought up earlier the woman who attempted suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's something that happens more than, it happens in, addiction too, obviously, but is that something that goes along in the eating disorder?
Yeah. There's So there's a lot of shared